Wow, the end of an era. You know that feeling when something which was a part of your life for so long is suddenly gone? You were ready for it to be over. You were expecting it to be over. You might have even believed you're prepared to have it over. But then when it's actually over, you realize just how much you're actually going to miss it. Now, I've done this song and dance with many other franchises before, but it always strikes differently whenever you're getting into something new. And today's subject is no different, as we reach the end of what I believe is one of the best shows, if not the best show, to come out during the 2020s, The Owl House. Granted, I jumped on the bandwagon a bit late, after season 1 finished airing actually, but that didn't stop me from becoming a fan of the series and being glued to the screen whenever a new episode came out. And also being pissed off at Disney for sabotaging the show like the homophobes that they are. But let's not get into this whole topic because I want to celebrate the show and not get angry over the bad hand it was unfairly dealt. With that being said, as a final farewell to the Owl House, I want to say some words about it, but first some backstory. I was first exposed to the show thanks to one of my best friends who would write episode recaps for it on the website Medium. Obviously, I became interested, and when 2020 forced us to stay at home, my friend and I stayed somewhat sane by watching the first season. I haven't missed an episode since, and now I'm going to tell you why this entire journey was worth it and about how awesome the main character is. And yes, spoilers to the entire show incoming as if it wasn't obvious. The Owl House had me hooked since the opening moment thanks to one of the best things about the entire show. Its main character. Luz Noceda is easily one of the most relatable and likable characters in the Disney library. That includes the feature films. You can tell that she is an overall shy and friendly kid with massive creativity some could only dream of, but she is seen as an outcast in school due to most kids and authority figures finding her weird, including her own mother, Camilla. Already, not even halfway through the first episode, I related to this kid. Being the weird one in an environment, especially when you're a teenager, can suck. You're just doing your thing which makes you happy, but because it's different, you're targeted as someone to be mocked, and sometimes you're the problematic one for just enjoying something. Sometimes even your parents don't get your interests and wish you could just grow out of them, and man, that sucks. Now, granted, we've seen characters like Luz before. That's nothing new. But Luz is just better than most other characters like her. She's obviously different from her peers and she's getting into a lot of trouble for it, but what I find interesting about her is that the show doesn't really take a side in terms of how Luz is presented. If anything, the opening is brilliant because it shows that Luz might be friendly and creative, but she is also impulsive and tends to act before thinking. The first scene of the entire show is her being sent to the principal's office and her mother being called in to discuss her behavior. On paper, this could be an introduction to a school bully or a troublemaker who needs to mellow down. But the reason Luz is sent to the principal's office isn't because she's a bad kid per se, or that she's done anything wrong, she's just misunderstood. We see in flashbacks that Luz isn't a bully, or a bullying victim who fought back. She is just interested in things which the people around her find weird or disgusting. And that leads to others judging her for what they see as downsides rather than what makes her special and different from them. The summer camp the principal wants to send her to is also advertising thinking inside the box rather than outside of it. At the same time, though, despite not being a bad person, Luz's unusual antics can be seen as problematic, and like any bad behavior, quote unquote, she still has to deal with the system and face consequences for her actions, even if she had the purest of intentions. And it's right here, in this opening sequence, where we are subtly introduced to the driving force of the entire show. The intentions behind the deeds. I think we can all agree that Luz is, at heart, a good person. Even if we ignore the fact that she is the main character of the show, we constantly see glimpses and reminders that she is good at heart and is just looking to belong. In the first episode of season 3, she even mentions that all she's ever wanted was to be good at something which people would accept. The main thing Luz wants is validation, and she's getting it in the Boiling Isles, where she's often the first one to offer a helping hand, not giving up until she gets justice for those she loves, and always opposes the norm, so to speak. Luz isn't afraid to stand up for what's right, even if it's going against the mold, but she needs an environment which accepts it, and she finds that environment in the Demon Realm. If we look at all the connections Luz makes in the Boiling Isles, there seems to be one thing in common. Luz would help change a person's point of view about themselves, and oftentimes actually making them better people for it. She helps the secluded Ida open up to people again and follow what makes her happy. She made King realize that he can also enjoy being cute and fluffy in addition to big and powerful. She helped Willow come out of her shell and helped the girl boost her confidence. She satisfied Gus's intrigue with the human realm and provided validity to his curiosity. She helped Amity face down her insecurities and make her own path, different from what her mother forced down on her. She helped Hunter discover the truth about whom he worked for and fought for him to have a fresh start. She helped Lilith see Belos's true intentions and got her to switch sides and support her sister. She helped the Collectors see the error of their ways and how sometimes things don't always go so well. The list goes on and on. While we can all agree that Luz is a wonderful human being, she's also not perfect, like all human beings. Her optimism and willpower to change the mold and stand up for what's right seems to kick in when it comes to helping others, but not necessarily herself. Luz is a tough young girl, and it's possible she knows it to the point she refuses to let herself catch a break or admit that she's flawed. She sees her mistakes and vulnerability as problems which could distance people from her, which leads to her hiding them from her friends. It takes her a while to open up to Amity about how she lost her father at a young age, or tell her about her heart-wrenching conversation with her mother, and after she and her friends are sent to the human realm, she's hiding away her guilt over accidentally helping Belos bring forth the Day of Unity. As accepting and open-minded as she is, Luz also seems to have trust issues due to her fear of people not accepting her because of her mistakes. And the thing is that it makes perfect sense that she would have those trust issues. Her school shuns her wilder side, her mother wants her to fit in, but in the process she fails to see Luz as she is and only as others see her. In the Boiling Isles, she's the only human around, Belos aside, and at first everyone treats her as if she doesn't belong because of it. It takes a while for her to actually get through to those people, and that's because she helps them. Luz's primal fear is that if she just fumbles and isn't helpful, her loved ones are going to abandon her because they don't see the point for her anymore. Let's go back to the episode where Luz comes clean to her mother about deciding to stay in the Demon Realm, which she refers to as her best decision she's ever made. Camilla reacts as any mother would, with sadness. Her own daughter made a conscious decision to stay in a strange world she doesn't know because, in the way Camilla sees it, Luz hated living with her that much. Luz, of course, reassures Camilla that wasn't the case, but with little to no time to fully explain things, Luz just promises to remain in the human realm once she comes back. What's interesting about this talk, besides the fact that it breaks my heart every time I see it, is what they tell each other. When Luz said she chose to stay in the Boiling Isles, Camilla breaks down over the prospect of Luz hating living with her, apologizing for shunning Luz away and regretting sending her to camp. Now, for all intents and purposes, Camilla has things to apologize for, as not standing by your kids' ambitions can cause them long-term damage. Trust me, I've been there. But Luz won't tell her that. Luz reassures her that her decision to stay had nothing to do with the way Camilla treated her. It's also at this moment that her excitement to tell her mother just how much she grew and learned while being away completely vanishes. Luz's decision to stay in the bowling house for as long as she did is as questionable as it is great for her. And at first she sees the great. However, once she is faced with the hurt of it, making her mother think she hated her, Luz completely changes her tune to comfort her mother, and the positives she mentions no longer matter to her. She just wants to reassure her mother that she did nothing wrong. In Luz's mind, her happiness doesn't matter as much as her making her mother happy. This comes back several more times through interactions with Amity. If you're watching this video, I don't think I need to tell you that Amity is Luz's girlfriend, but I just did it anyway because of formalities. One of, if not the most important thing in a relationship, is honesty. Hiding secrets from your partner isn't a good idea. No matter how small they seem to be or how insignificant they might be, honesty is always important in a relationship. And Luz kind of goes against her own honest nature twice ever since she began dating Amity. After seeing Camila, Luz is hiding from Amity the details of the meeting, which the latter begins to question after noticing a video Luz filmed for her mother. When Amity confronts Luz about it, Luz explains that she didn't want to ruin Amity's happiness regarding their relationship with such a heavy topic. When Amity reassures her that she wants to listen and help her figure things out, Luz seems to be struggling to accept it at first, almost not believing someone would stick by her if even one thing is out of place. She agrees, of course, but that look of surprise on her face always stuck out to me as something she wasn't ready for. She's not used to having positive reassurance, and getting it from someone, and her girlfriend to boot, is just an experience she's still getting used to. The same thing repeats a few episodes later when, on the anniversary of her dad's death, Luz becomes overly eager to help Amity with her dad issues, to the point where she just ends up hurting Amity. When Luz explains the situation, she tries to play it off as her father's death is not a big deal anymore, saying that while it's an explanation, it's not an excuse for her behavior, and she still tries to play her clumsiness as a light-hearted thing. Amity, again, surprises her by promising Luz that after she solves her own thing, she'll be there to honor her dad. Once again, Luz downplays herself over a mistake she made, believing that's the only way Amity won't hate her. She's definitely in the wrong and the episode calls her out on it, but the way she takes full responsibility and doesn't make excuses for herself shows that she's also critical of herself. And that's something some people could learn from her. Making a mistake is one thing, but admitting it is another. On a side note, I just want to say that Luz and Amity are relationship goals, and I'm more than happy to say that my own girlfriend feels like a wonderful Amity. Or a wonderful Luz. I don't know, we haven't figured out who's who yet. Anyway, after returning to the human realm, Luz is distraught at the idea that she helped Belos bring the Day of Unity, not to mention teaching him glyph magic in the past, and that it's because of her that the bowling owls are in danger, and not to mention keeping her friends away from their homes. Amity even mentions that Luz has been taking responsibility for their failed attempts at the portal. During a class in school, she even breaks down over how a hero in a novel she's studying was just a pawn in a bad guy's plan, and that the character's friends would have been better up if he never existed, mirroring how she felt about accidentally helping Belos and harming her loved ones in the process. Once again, Luz is hiding it from everyone because she believes her friends will hate her over those mistakes, only for her friends and mother to reassure her later that they stick by her because they know her true self. And her true self wouldn't do something like this intentionally. She just tried to help because that's what Luz does. Luz has the best of intentions, but those intentions sometimes lead to bad things. She wanted to help Philip by teaching him magic only to have accidentally created the evil Belos in the present. But in that situation, Luz's actions were honest and driven by a will to help people, while Belos's actions were dishonest and driven by his selfish needs. It is kind of amazing how similar and yet different Luz and Belos are. Luz wants to be accepted by society, while Belos wants to save society. The difference is that Luz is just seeking validation that she's good enough and not disappointing her mom and friends, while Belos wants admiration and to be adored by everyone. Luz will accept her mistakes and will give herself a hard time for messing up, while Belos sees his bad deeds as all part of a bigger plan to make himself a hero. Luz cares about those who surround her, while Belos only cares about his goal and the need to be the sole important figure in the story. So let's go back to the very start of the show. Remember how I said this scene at the principal's office depicts the main theme for the entirety of Luz's story? Yes, let's talk about that. Luz is a cheerful and creative girl who's sent to the principal's office because of her questionable nature. She's not mean-spirited, but the results end up being problematic for her. This cycle comes back again and again throughout the show. Luz does something out of the kindness of her heart, but the situation becomes complicated and she has to face her mistakes and accept responsibility even if she meant no harm. What she's coming to learn though is that her good intentions are the reason her mother and loved ones will never abandon her, because they know she's a good-natured girl who helped them more times she harmed them. And whenever she made a mistake, she would fight to fix it. But that brings the question, what if the person you see as the bad guy also has good intentions? How are you any different? Is there any difference? Does this mean you're a bad person like him, or does this mean he's a good person like you? What does this mean? When Luz is talking to King's dad in the in-between, she asks him if they're as bad as Belos is, because they basically want the same thing as him. He reassures her, however, that while Luz is compassionate and caring, Belos is careless and won't stop in his quest to fulfill his hero fantasy, despite the fact that he is hurting everyone in the process. And here's your main difference. Belos is fueled by egotistical rage and envy, while Luz is fueled by love and the will to help out and be a good person. That is also what gives her the advantage in the final fight against Belos, as her friendship with King made Titan trust her with his power. I think that's what makes Luz such a relatable and wonderful character. She's an amazing person through and through, but her intentions don't always come out as planned, and when that leads to problems, it can cause self-doubt, and you end up seeking validation in other ways. However, it's important to remember that even if your choices don't lead to the best possible scenario, you should never doubt yourself, or think that those who truly love you will turn their backs on you. Self-doubt sucks, and I'm speaking from years of experience. You can put your heart and soul into something or have the best intentions going into anything, only for it to not end up working as well as you thought it would. It sucks, there's no other way to say it. But it doesn't mean that you, whoever watches this video, should ever think that you don't matter or that those you love would turn their backs on you once the fantasy is over. I am not a successful YouTuber, but I'm making these videos because I enjoy the process and because I feel like I have something to say. It'll probably not get so many views, but it doesn't say anything about who I am or what my worth is. And believe me, it took me a long while to accept that about myself. The main takeaway from the Owl House is that you should be able to see your flaws, but never forget to see your strengths as well. I'm so happy that kids and teens these days had Luz as their role model and the character they want to be like. Hell, I relate to this kid and I'm 30 years old. And I think that's the magic of Luz Noceda. She can appeal to both kids and adults because both went through what she did, and can sing comfort in the good witch of the human realm when things become too rough. Sad to think we'll never see Luz again, at least not for a long while. There may not be any new adventures with her, but Luz will never go away. because if there's anything that she taught me is that weirdos stick together. And I'm sure that her story and everything it taught us will stick with us for a very long time. Dana Terrace, on the very off chance that you're watching this, thank you for bringing Luz Noceda and the Owl House in general into our lives. I seem to recall reading somewhere that Luz is mostly based on your life. If that's true, then I hope making one of the best shows on TV gave you the validation you were looking for. Whatever it is you're working on next, I can't wait to see it. And even if it will turn out badly, which I don't believe it will never change the fact you made something very special with the Owl House. And I'll always be grateful to you for making it. And Disney? You better not mess up another rare treasure like this. If and whenever you get one.